Hey everyone, good morning. Welcome to the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. Thank you very much for being here on this absolutely stunning day. Thank you to those of you who have invited us into your home through the power of technology and the live streaming. Thank you. It's nice to have to be present with you. And I see a few new faces. Let's welcome our newcomers, first-time visitors. My name is Reverend Dusty Ripplemeyer, and I am the senior minister of this amazing community. We are a part of a larger organization called Centers for Spiritual Living. We teach and practice the teachings of a man named Ernest Holmes, who would sometimes say he never had an original idea in his whole entire life, that all he did was synthesize all of the wisdom from the faith traditions throughout time and all of psychology and science and everything. And we believe that there is one God, and that God is within us and surrounding us, that is not off on some cloud with a long beard doling out punishments and favors, but instead it is benevolent, and that it actually is a creative power that we are able to tap into, and that we can co-create a world that we love to live, and a world that works for everyone. And so we are here to celebrate that, and to celebrate each other, and to support each other on our spiritual path. So we welcome you today. Thank you very much for being here.
Today's reading is from our founder, Ernest Holmes. He says, "We are dealing with a power which in itself is limitless. We limit it, and so it cannot become to us the bigger thing. Of itself, the power is the same that made the worlds, and it cannot realize any sense of limitation. Stop limiting things. Things are as big as we make them, no more, no less. There is room at the top. Get on top of everything and dare to dominate the earth. All things are given to us to use. Make use of them. Everything is limitless, and we must see the truth that the fault is not in the law, but in ourselves when we fail, not with God, but with man." And so it is.
So good morning to those of you who may have just arrived in the sanctuary. The theme for the month of May is creativity, and my talk title today is Clarity for Life. Now, in a month whose theme is creativity, I believe that we need to look at our understanding of the meaning of creativity. Many of us have collapsed our idea of creativity with being artistic. Maybe you have heard yourself say out loud or silently to yourself, "I'm not very creative." Well, what I want you to hear this morning is that that is not the truth. It never was the truth, nor will it ever be the truth. What could maybe be true is that some of us are a little bit more artistic than others. Some people can sing or dance or draw or write, while others maybe not so much. But that does not mean that you are not creative. Creativity is an aspect of God. God is first cause. God created everything that there is, everything that we can see and everything that we cannot see. The nature of the universe is creativity. Being one with God and being one with nature then means that we too are creative. Created by God, out of God itself, in its image and likeness. It could be no other way. We are creative. The creativity of spirit is always seeking to be expressed and experienced through and as us. Ernest Holmes says, "There is a universal law of mind or creative principle which acts upon your thoughts to produce an outer effect in accordance with that thought. Your thought has creative power because your mind is connected with the universal mind. You are a center in the creative field of mind. What you are thinking matters. You are always experiencing the effect of the way you think, feel, and believe. Your thoughts take shape and form as the everyday conditions and circumstances of your life. So, we are always creating. We are always creating the experiences of our lives, whether we are aware of it or not. Whether we are consciously creating or unconsciously creating, we are always creating. Here at the center, we believe that we can, through this creative process, create the life of our dreams, create a life that we love to live, create a life that works for everyone. That we have the power within us and surrounding us to change the circumstances, relationships, and situations that we are experiencing if we don't like them. That the mind that created them in the first place is the mind that can change them. If we can imagine it and believe it and accept it, there it is. There it is. Last week, Reverend Bill said that we are not pawns. We are not peons. We are creative people. And as creative people, our domain is creativity. That in order to tap into that creativity, we need courage, passion, and confidence. He talked about walking with confidence. Today, I add clarity to that list of powerful qualities that we need to express in order to tap into our innate creativity. Clarity means a quality or state of being clear, to be unclouded, to be focused, to be transparent. Clarity is a clearness of thought, a clearness of perception, or a clearness of understanding. It means to be free of ambiguity. It is said that that clarity is to know deep down in our hearts, deep down in our souls, what we really want. That clarity is seeing how the world can be different and having the faith to know that we can create whatever we imagine. That clarity is the space in which we are able to see how our beliefs and fears may be holding us back. And it is the space in which we are able to gracefully move through them. Clarity allows us to tap into the unlimited possibilities that are available to each and every one of us all of the time. Clarity is a mindset or a context for living that enables us to view the world as an adventure just waiting to be explored rather than a series of obstacles to overcome. Doesn't that sound like way more fun? Now, within my ministry as a minister and even as a practitioner, I often heard people say, I don't really have any clarity in my life. Now, if we think about it, how often has a lack of forward motion toward the life of our dreams been as a result of the fact that we have been unable to articulate what we want? Or maybe we do know what we want, but we don't know how to get it. Life can be complicated at times. It can be perceived as overwhelming. The possibility exists that at some point in time or another, that we will all face questions like, who am I? What is my purpose? How do I deal with this difficult situation or that difficult situation? What choice should I make next? What is mine to do? A man named Kent Saunders, in an article called The Real Reason That You Feel Stressed Out, Confused, and Overwhelmed, shares a few questions that we could ask ourselves that may help us to determine if we lack clarity in our lives. Now, you don't have to raise your hands or anything, but are you overwhelmed? Are you overcommitted? Do you feel stressed much of the time? Do you find it hard to say no to other people? Are you paralyzed by too many options? Do you feel confused about your direction in life? Are you afraid to truly be yourself, or afraid of disappointing other people, or afraid of not fitting into the mold that other people have put you into? If you answered yes to any of these questions, you might be lacking clarity in your life. Now, what I'm clear about is that clarity is important. And what I'm equally clear about is that there are some of us who would like more clarity in our lives. So for me, the question that is foremost in my mind about clarity is, who do I have to be? What do I have to do to experience clarity powerfully? To experience it with ease and grace in all arenas of my life at all time. Today, I'm sharing a little four-pronged approach for you. Go within, get connected, stay focused, and take responsibility. Go within. Whenever we are trying to walk or to drive from one place to another, we often pull up the address on our GPS in the car or on our phone. And that GPS helps us to navigate through our confusion. It assists us to find our way, or it makes our path very clear to us. We have within us our own GPS, an inner wisdom, an internal guidance system that is always available to assist us to navigate through our confusion, through our doubts, through our fears, through our worries. The struggle, however, is that we very rarely take the time to get quiet enough to listen. The trap that many of us fall into is that we assume that we have to think our way through life's ups and downs. I think that if we are honest with ourselves, we more often than not turn to our friends and our families for advice. Or we turn to the internet where we can find all kinds of information. Or we stress ourselves out by mulling things over and over in our minds, trying to find a solution at the level of the problem. Sound like anybody you know? Uh-huh. Now, all of this is distracting. All of this creates resistance to our inner clarity. There are way too many ideas whizzing around inside our minds at any given moment, and we could never possibly do everything, and the truth is that there is absolutely no need to, that it's unnecessary. There's way too many people giving us advice that is very often at odds with each other. If we're mulling over a problem or a difficult choice, it can be very hard not to get caught up in that incessant thinking, in calculating or worrying or second guessing about everything. Sometimes it may seem as though the more that we try to think ourselves through a situation and step into a new way of being, that it becomes even more complicated. It's no wonder that we're feeling overwhelmed instead of comforted by our current strategies. We can think about our cluttered minds like an untidy house. If you were trying to find something in an untidy house, I don't know what that looks like, but in an untidy house, you would have trouble trying to find that thing, yes? But if you returned back to the house after it had been tidied up a little bit, you would be able to find whatever it was that you were looking for with ease. Just with ease. Now, the difference, however, is that we are not talking about our external environment. We are talking about our internal landscape. But it's the same. The bottom line is that the answers to all of our questions and the solutions to all of our challenges are available. They are available. That everything that we need to live the life of our dreams is already within us. Our innate wisdom is always ready, willing, and able to inform us of that which we need to know and that which we need to do. We just need to get quiet enough, stay still long enough to be able to hear it. Think about a glass of water that's filled with murky water. If you continue to keep agitating the water, the murkiness remains. But if you were to allow that glass of murky water to just sit there quietly for a period of time, the water would again become clear. You don't have to rail against the murkiness to make it go away. Just sit quietly. Our minds are the same way. Within us are great reservoirs of wisdom that may be blocked by an overactive mind or by a mind that's constantly thinking, especially thinking negative thoughts. The clarity is right within us. The clarity is right there. It has always been right there. We simply need to get quiet. And through that stillness, one way or another, we will find a new way to deal with whatever challenge we are going through. Or we will be inspired by a new idea, or we will be enlightened by a revelation that we had never even considered before. One of the synonyms of clarity is lucid or lucidity, which means the capacity to perceive the truth directly and instantaneously, the capacity to receive the truth directly and instantaneously, the aha moment. That moment of mental, emotional, and spiritual clarity that actually allows us to see beyond what is into what is becoming. That moment of mental, emotional, and spiritual clarity that feels so good. The aha moment. So the invitation is to get quiet. Now, whether that is a formal meditation practice, sitting on a meditation cushion, or a walk in the beauty of nature, or simply a long, deep breath taken periodically throughout the day, being quiet enough, still enough to listen for and to our inner GPS is of utmost importance. The clarity that we gain allows us to see beyond the moment, allows us to see beyond our judgment, allows us to see beyond our perceptions, and to expand our awareness of all of the possibilities that are available. Endless possibilities. Fresh insights and solutions come to us more easily than we could have ever imagined. Choices become easier to make, courage becomes easier to find, and an inner peace becomes our constant companion. The invitation is to go within. Get connected. The Bible says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all else shall come to you." Abraham would probably say something like, "There are simply way too many moving parts for us to be able to understand it all. And why do you need to? Because the vortex already has it all figured out, that all of the coordinated component parts are already in place. We just need to get in alignment with it." Abraham would say that we and our incessant need to figure it out is the last stronghold, the last holdout. So all we need to do is to let that go and to get into vibrational alignment with the energy that creates worlds. Jim even read that today. The energy that creates worlds. Can you think of the power of that? Do the inner work, the inner vibrational work that allows you to be in vibrational harmony with source energy, with God. The world's wisdom traditions teach that an unsettled mind arises out of a belief in separation, arises out of not remembering who and whose we are. That an unsettled mind comes about by trying to live our lives from the outside in rather than from the inside out. That an unsettled mind comes from a belief that the external world of form is primary, and that somehow our internal spiritual world is secondary. That when we live our lives from that belief, we're battered about by the experiences of our lives. We find it hard to find the solutions or the answers to our questions, those that we so desire to find. The unsettled mind is a mind without clarity. And when we have no clarity, we live from a space of fear, doubt, and confusion. When we lack clarity, we operate from our small self, that self with a small s. And we block our good, and we limit the possibilities that are open and available to us. Opportunities that we could tap into if we were operating from our self with a capital S, from our divine self, from our inner nobility. So the invitation is to stand firmly grounded in our awareness of the truth of our being, to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are a child of God. To know beyond a shadow of a doubt who we really are. Who we are as pure, unchanged, unconditioned consciousness. Nothing can change who we are at our very core. Experiences can come and go, but the core of who we are is unaffected by them. The invitation is to recognize that we are not our bodies, we are not our fears, we are not our beliefs, we are not our circumstances, we are not our moods, we are not our struggles, we are not anything outside of ourselves. And we are certainly not anything that is always changing. When we are able to understand this truth, then we will have the ability to distinguish between the experiences of life and that which experiences them. We are that which experiences them, the witness. That pure, unchanging consciousness. Clarity is a manifestation of being in alignment with God. We are one with God. What could be any more clear than that? The invitation is to get connected. Stay focused. Think for a moment, and this slide should help you to do that. Think for a moment about a beautiful river. The banks of the river give direction and shape to the water. They provide the boundaries that the current flows through on its way to its destination. Creativity can be thought of like a river. It's a constant flow of the givingness of God through and as us on the macrocosm, and a constant flow of ideas and possibilities through us and as our lives on the microcosm. The banks on the right and the banks on the left of that flow of creativity are clarity. Saunders says, just like the banks of a river, clarity gives direction, shape, and momentum to your creative life. Often we feel overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of the information that is coming to us. We lack direction. We lack focus. We're all over the place, bouncing from one thing to another without making any real progress. Without clarity, there is confusion. Clarity gives us the boundaries that we need to stay focused in the direction in which we are moving, in the directions of our highest and best, in the direction of the life that we wish to live. The invitation is to stay focused. And lastly, take responsibility. The idea behind this takes me back to where I began. We are creative. We live our lives from the inside out. Nothing outside of ourselves has the power that we have within us. With clarity comes awareness, and with awareness comes choice. And with choice comes the responsibility to act. There are two different futures. One is a default future, and the other is a created future. Now, the default future is the future that we will arrive at if we continue to make the same choices, continue to do the same things, continue to think the same thoughts that we have always thought. A created future is the future that we will arrive at by gaining clarity about what we want, and about gaining clarity about how to utilize the inner resources within us to get there. Now, the invitation is to get very clear about our responsibility to ourselves and to our own lives. Go within, get connected, stay focused, and take responsibility for creating the life that you want to live, creating the future that you want to experience. Go within, get connected, stay focused, take responsibility, and absolutely experience clarity for life. And so it is. So I just invite us to turn within. And as I do so, I am acutely aware of the power and presence of God that is within me. This inner sanctuary. the space and place of creativity and wisdom, unconditional love, joy, peace. It is who and what I am at my very core. This spark of the divine was imbued within me when I arrived on the planet. I cannot be separated from it. It feeds me, fuels me, funds me, guides me, guards me, and supports me in all arenas of my life. And just as I know that this is true for me, I know that it is true for each and every person here today, that each of us is a unique and divine expression of God. And that it is God's good pleasure to give us the kingdom of heaven on earth. It is from that place of unity, that deep and abiding oneness, that I speak these words about and for each of us today. Truly knowing that we are spiritual beings having a human incarnation. That within us is everything that we need to live the life of our dreams. That all that we need to do is get quiet enough to tap into that wisdom, to gain that clarity, and then to powerfully move forward with it. I claim ease and grace for us around this. I deny that there is anything that can get in the way of our clarity. Deny that there is anything that gets in our way of us letting loose this incessant need to figure things out. That it truly is not so, that we don't need to do it. And so I claim for each of us today that we let that go. That we surrender to the wisdom of God, surrender to this inner clarity, and know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we can create anything that we can imagine. And that when we are tuned in and tapped into that presence within us, that the possibilities are endless. And I'm so grateful to know this truth, so grateful to speak these words, so grateful for the power of prayer, knowing that these words are loosed into a law that only ever says yes, that my words are clothed in form immediately. And so I speak them, and I release them, and I let God be God. And I invite each of us to anchor that for ourselves and for each other simply by saying, and so it is. Amen.